Climate change, something we have been hearing ever since we were kids. In science class, we would always hear the teachers say the burning of fossil fuels is bad and we need to plant more trees, but then it gets repeated less and less into adulthood. Then we just hear the phrase climate change, and we think we know all about it. But do we? There are many movies showing us what will happen if climate change isn't contained, like The Day After Tomorrow and WALL-E, but people still approach climate change in an if I see it, I'll believe it basis. There are many aspects of climate change that can't be seen, but have the science that proves that this is happening. An average American releases 18 carbon dioxide emissions yearly. 12 of those emissions are processed naturally, but the remaining 6 go up to the atmosphere, making the earth warmer. That average American would need a 6-acre forest to take care of those remaining 6 carbon particles. That is concerning. During this desktop documentary, we hope to give you a bit of insight on how climate change is affecting us, the plastic problem, and how films are exaggerating the problem to motivate people to take action.
Fuels, since we burn them to release their energy. But burning this coal, oil, and gas is releasing carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, where it's rapidly building up and heating our planet. So far, we've burned our way through some 600 billion tons of this carbon. That's about the same weight as 4 Mount Everests. It's a lot, but we can easily get our hands on way more because there are 30 Everests worth of carbon still buried in the ground.
Climate change has a lot to do with the fossil fuel emissions and CO2 emissions. All of the things that most people think of when they hear climate change. But it's important to recognize that it has a relatively new player, plastic. Plastic is a material that can change its shape. They are made up of polymers that are long chains of atoms bonded to each other, and they are made with fossil fuels. Plastic was created in the 1800s as a substitute for ivory, and in order to get ivory, people had to kill wild elephants. This was one of the first times that people realized they could create their own materials instead of relying only on nature's resources. However, plastic became very popular during World War II, where production in the United States increased by 30%. This production rate kept increasing even after the war. Once people learned that plastic can substitute many things, such as car parts, paper and glass packaging, wooden furniture, etc., it became common to find plastic in such things. It was cheaper to produce and buy, and it remained durable. In the 1970s and 1980s, people began to realize that plastic was a problem. A lot of plastic packaging is single-use and must be disposed of after, which will then last in the environment forever. The solution was to recycle the material, but unfortunately, the plastic can still end up in landfills. Approximately 18 billion pounds of plastic ends up in the oceans every year, which is about 5 grocery bags of plastic sitting on every foot of every coastline in the world. Meanwhile, 40% of plastic produced is single-use packaging, and with that, less than 1/5 of all plastic is actually recycled in the world. We still use it in our everyday lives, and it's difficult to get rid of, despite the problems we are facing. The use of plastic is sometimes looked over while talking about climate change, because some people aren't aware of what it's doing. Most plastic is made from fossil fuels. Right now, with the global pandemic, fossil fuel companies are looking for other ways to make money instead of oil, and the first thing to come to mind was producing plastic. Not only does plastic use fossil fuels, but because it's ending up in landfills and the ocean, it's killing and endangering animals. It's gotten to the point where plastic has been found in the deepest part of the ocean, the Mariana Trench. Coral reefs and the ocean's animals are crucial to the ecosystem, and the ocean has already started to change for the worse because of plastic. The world is starting to address the problems that plastic is creating by raising awareness and trying to find ways to limit individuals' use of plastic. But that won't stop companies from cutting back on their production rates. People being aware of the problem and trying to stop it is a great start. But as long as companies are still producing it, it'll end up in the environment. The cosmetic and personal care industry is a good example of this usage.
The personal care industry has grown into a $500 billion company, but where did it all start? Personal care started around 1926, where the Lever Company started an ad campaign about body odor and the horrors it could do to your image. This campaign created a domino effect, and personal care became an essential part of everyday life. Everyone wanted to smell good and look good. After World War I, the United States emerges as the most prolific consumer and producer of personal care products. Hygiene was extremely important, and the military had strict codes towards it, as they did not want to bring any diseases. During World War II, lipstick was even considered a wartime necessity. Now, you might be asking yourself, what's the issue? Well, this mass production also required durable packaging that would be lightweight and versatile, and would keep the product in good condition. And the perfect fit was plastic. Plastic was durable, unlike glass. When shipping, glass was very heavy and breakable. Therefore, plastic was the perfect solution. As the personal care industry kept growing, so did plastic. The plastic footprint ballooned. This is including other plastics, but plastic packaging increased 120% since 1960, with almost 70% of that waste ending in landfills. This is horrible. It takes over 1,200 years for plastic to decompose, and if it is burned, it releases toxic fumes in the environment. But fear not, as some companies are taking action against this issue. The Lever Company, now known as Unilever, has joined a group of 28 companies to battle this plastic problem. Their goals include to combat the global temperature rise to 1.5 Celsius above pre-industrial levels. The cosmetic group is now committing to reaching a net zero emissions by the year 2050, and to use 100% waterless products, as water-free products have a 25% lower carbon dioxide emission. These are ambitious goals, but many companies have decided that change is needed, and by 2050 these goals are not achieved, there is no going back. Other companies, such as SW Basics, have committed to using glass packaging, as it is 100% recyclable, but definitely more costly. Lush Cosmetics tries to use almost no plastic in their packaging, and when they do, it is recycled plastic. They make bar shampoo and conditioner and often use tin as their preferred packaging method. The Body Shop has also made a commitment to the environment. Their company has always been vegan and all-natural. They buy recycled plastics for their packaging except for their caps, and they have also been working in making their packaging 100% biodegradable.
Climate change is happening at an alarming rate, and unless the world begins to take action, it will only get worse. Luckily, awareness is being raised through communities and through the media. Films such as The Day After Tomorrow, WALL-E, An Inconvenient Truth, and others are spreading this awareness to adults and children. Some of these films are disaster films that use scare tactics to get their messages across. And while they may only show the worst case scenario for dramatic effects, they still show the negative outcomes due to our actions. With fossil fuel emissions, CO2 emissions, and the use of plastic, the world is becoming a scary place. But if we take action now, there is hope.